Hi, I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. Well, Lashana Tova, Happy New Year to all our Jewish friends, and I won't be here this particular Sunday. At least I'll be there in spirit. So we have a special guest host. And who's that, George?
We've got John Taylor. John volunteered to pick up the slack, and thank you, John. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Anybody who watches the show knows how much fun John is. And we've got a great guest. Bill Ratner will be on the show via Skype, and he'll be sharing his sage wisdom, years of experience, and I'm sure a pretty good anecdote or two.
And I'll still, as I said, I'll be there in spirit. We'll still have a tip of the week. We're going to talk about how you deal with rumble in your audio and how to get rid of it, where it comes from, all that sort of stuff.
And we'll have your questions and your tech news of the week, things that I've scraped off the forums that I think might be of interest to y'all.
All right. Good luck, John. We'll see you Sunday night, 9 p.m. in the East.
6 o'clock in the West.
Take care. We'll see you Sunday night.
From Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic, he solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East-West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in L.A., here are Dan Leonard and George Whittam.
Hey, how's everybody doing? It's me, John Taylor, in the East.
And it's George in the West.
And we are East-West Audio Body Shop.
Nicely done, my friend.
Considering there's some sort of a delay between the two of us, we somehow figured out a way to swim in synchronicity.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad at all. John,
yeah.
I got to thank you from the bottom of my heart and Dan's as well for pinch hitting and having us coming on the show tonight and hosting, and at the last minute me saying, no, you can't use anything you want, you know, you can't use any of the equipment you had prepared. Do it all differently, and you did it. So thanks again, man. You are a trooper.
Well, this is what we do. We are uber geeks. And that's it. So did you get a hacked version of the new iPhone 5?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they send one to me every time they come out. I'm one of their big reviewers. Yeah, no, don't think so. No, don't think so. In fact, I have no real major desire to use the iPhone 5 until it catches up to my Galaxy S3.
But it's larger.
Well, this phone is still larger than the iPhone 5, actually. But honestly, it's as big as you'd want a phone. It's pretty wide, right? So you can barely reach. If you have a small hand like I can, you can barely reach across with your thumb. You know the whole phablet thing? Have you heard that word, phablet, yet?
No, I haven't heard phablet.
Well, phablet is a phone that is big enough to be a tablet.
Ah, okay.
So this is, I would say, a small phablet, but you know, it's pretty big, right? But then they make a one bigger than this that's called the Note, and it's an inch larger than this thing.
Is that, what is that, a niblet?
Yeah, this is a niblet, yeah. To me, the difference between a phone and a tablet is a phone, you can do almost anything with one thumb on the screen. You can use the entire phone from your thumb. And
yeah, and use the other hand for driving.
Right, and use the other hand for driving. But with a tablet, it's a two-handed job. So that's the way I look at it. Anyway, I'm sure everybody wanted to hear that.
So here we are, and we have got to, first off, we have to congratulate one of our beloved members of our voiceover family for taking home a very large and pointy statuette, winner of an Emmy for his performance in Futurama, and the episode was The Silence of the Clamps. We have to give a big round of applause for Maurice LaMarche.
Maurice, you're the man.
He is.
We followed him for a while. I think he's. Didn't he win an Emmy last year too? Come to think of it.
Yeah, he's well. He needed bookends, and now he's got them.
That's right.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
And he's also, you hear him all over the place on the Lexus commercials. He's the voice of Lexus.
Nicely done, man. Yeah. That's not a bad gig.
I think it's really funny that that he was the voice of Lexus and Rob Paulson was Mr. Opportunity for Honda.
That is pretty funny, actually, if you think about it.
I mean, when you think about it, for major cars, they are the only two non-celebrity voices. So that means they're really, really good. And of course, we know that. And congratulations to Maurice.
Someday I hope to be the voice of some kind of Brand X roller skates. I'm working.
I got to be Camry for a while.
That's right.
That was a good thing.
That's right. Yeah.
That was a good thing. I asked them if I could have a Camry. I said, Maurice gets a Lexus.
They never called you again? Is that what happened?
Could I have a Camry? And they said, no. Okay, then. Just back up the little Toyota pickup and fill money into the back, and I'll be satisfied with that.
Exactly.
We have some other business to attend to for those who live in L.A.
Here, do you want to hear this wonderful announcements drop we have that Dan did?
Yes.
Here you go.
It's now time for announcements. Announcements.
Oh
yeah.
They're going to revoke his Spebsqua membership there. Little barbershop action there.
He's been dying for us to get some other people to replace that. But I guess
That's
people
awesome.
like it just enough that we're going to keep playing it until somebody sends in something better.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of announcements. There is a special that's going on Voice 123. It's 6 months for $100. And this is good until tomorrow only.
Whoa. Okay. So this is pretty time sensitive.
Yes, it is. And it's on my screen here, so I'm supposed to announce it. And it's Voice 123, 6 months for $100. And do you say the name of the email to the person?
I believe that's an important part of this nutritious breakfast.
It's from Stephen Lowell, and his email address is stephenlowell@aol.com. And so you contact him to get that deal. So it's 6 months for $100, and it expires tomorrow. So if you wanted to get a membership to Voice 123 or renew, I would expect you could do that for 6 months for $100.
Excellent.
And another announcement. Do you have the thing ready?
Oh, do you want to keep playing it between each one?
Are you kidding me?
Let's just keep doing it.
I want to hear
here
it.
we go.
It's now time for announcements. Announcements.
All right, we don't have to loop it.
Okay.
It's not exactly ear candy. It's more of ear hors d'oeuvres. So the 405 in L.A., oh, my L.A. peeps, going to be closing for another Carmageddon weekend. You loved it so much in 2011. They're bringing it back. Nice. What are they going to do?
They're knocking down the other half of the bridge that goes over Mulholland. They literally slice the thing down the middle. They cut it down the long ways and dropped half the bridge, built a whole new half of the bridge, and now they're dropping the other half and building the other half. It's amazing.
So this is Carmageddon 2.
Yeah.
This time it's for real. Okay. And that'll be coming to a roadway near you in L.A. from the 28th through the 30th.
They always,
and that'll do it for announcements. I think.
They always overdo it to make sure that people, are off the freeways. But last time I think it was done in 36 hours or something like that. So,
yeah, they did a pretty good job, and it wasn't as bad as it it was a little bit overblown. But, in L.A., they like to blow things
that's entertainment, yeah. And by the way, we do apparently have an EWABS LinkedIn page, so do like it for us. Like us,
it.
Please. Please
plug
like
us. We need to be held.
Yes, hold us, plug us. So
just hold us.
Exactly. Before we move on to Dan's tip of the week, which he did send in for us for the show, technical stuff that I've seen popping that's been bugging me a little bit lately. Audio interfaces.
Yes.
Anything that that brings sound from the analog outside world into the digital world in the computer.
Yeah.
Like Port Pro, MBox, all of these other gadgets that we're all having to use. I have found that lately I'm really disappointed in a lot of these newer high-tech audio interfaces that require some sort of proprietary software. They have a control panel, or they've got some sort of a console, QMix, whatever the heck they call it. They all have something that you have to use. And it is, there's two reasons why it's not very fun to deal with. For one thing, it adds to the learning curve of the device. It's no longer just what you see on the front panel, a couple switches, a couple dials, that's it. Now you've got this thing behind the scenes, this software program, unbelievably complex, that adds all this functionality. And I think it's because it's sort of a race to see who can pack more features. You know, it's the bells and whistles race. You know, that's the only way they think they can sell these things, is if they pack in more bells and whistles. That is the last thing we need in our home studios, is more bells and whistles.
This is why I'm a MicPort Pro person.
It's a very good reason to be a MicPort Pro person. MicPort Pro person. And add that to my list of tongue twister warm-ups that I do before the show. But anyway, any device like the MicPort Pro. Now, it does have a driver. It does actually have its own little driver. So, you know, it doesn't have to be used. But if you want the lowest latency, apparently it helps to use it. But I've had some real problems lately with the Apogee stuff that uses their own little thing called the Apogee Maestro. It's their control panel that gives you extra control over the thing. And it's a shame because it's an excellent sounding device. It looks drop dead sexy. It sounds really good. But their software is buggy as all get out. And I spent an hour on the phone with one of my clients just this past Friday, just tearing our hair out. I had the chat window from Apogee open off to the side. So I was chatting with that guy, talking to the client, trying everything he was throwing at me. Nothing that I'd never heard of before, of course, because I've done this 1,000 times. And at one point I said to the guy, we're just throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks at this point, right? And he's like, I guess you could call it that. And by the way, by the end of the hour, we hadn't fixed the problem. So, you know, it's because of that I'm getting less and less enamored with these kinds of devices that have proprietary software. So what do I mean? What doesn't have a proprietary software? Well, there are a few things out there. As we discussed, the MicPort Pro. On Windows, it does have a driver that you don't necessarily always need to use.
But it's plug and play on Apple.
But it's plug and play on Apple, yeah. And some devices are purely plug and play, where they just plug in, the driver loads, and they're working. And I love that. Of some of the more recent hardware devices that have come out that I'm kind of happy that they work so simply and work so reliably, one of them is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, which happens to actually be sitting on my desk. I'm actually talking to you guys through this box when we do the show.
Scarlett?
The Scarlett, yeah, and it's about $150. And for what it costs, it does a fantastic job. It will not work with a mic like a ribbon mic or, you know, a dynamic mic where it needs a ton of gain, you know, lots and lots of gain to boost the mic. But it'll work just fine with almost any studio condenser mic. And so far, for me, it has been very reliable. Now, I will say that Anthony Gettig has pointed out that this thing occasionally may for you give you trouble with Source Connect. So if a few of you are out there using Source Connect, think twice about this particular unit. Apparently, that's what I've heard. I have. And
a Mr. Richard Fainter of Fort Lee, New Jersey, asked, what about the Shure X2U?
I like the Shure X2U also. Actually, I like it a lot. In fact, it is truly plug and play, and on Windows and on Mac. There is no driver for it. It just works, and for about $100, that thing is really, really hard to beat. And it's kind of neat because it has a monitor dial that lets you blend between the the input and the playback, which for most things you could care less. But if you're doing anything like Skype or Source Connect, where you have a return coming back to you, it's nice to be able to dial in more of you and less of them, so they're not blowing you out of your headphones. So that is a cool thing about the X2U for sure. But look for devices that, I'll be honest, it's almost always the cheaper audio devices, you know, because they're not trying to build in a lot of extra added on gadgetry to sell these things. They're simple, they work, and some of them are very reliable. Another not so recent discovery, but seems to be being proven as a reliable unit that is scary cheap, is the Lexicon Alpha. $59 or $59.99 or something like that. And I recommended it to, of all people, Bo Weaver several months ago, because we were looking for a box that filled all these requirements. We wanted to have a headphone jack if we needed it, a separate knob for speakers, and line level inputs and no proprietary drivers and USB. And this thing ticked all the boxes. He plugged it in. We've done A/B tests between that thing and some much more expensive AD converters from the likes of Echo and the Motu Microbook, which he tried out. And all of those things require control panels. All of them tend to be a little wonky. And we could not make any definitive determination about audio quality to make those other things worthwhile. So the Lexicon Alpha, if you're just looking for something dead simple, it doesn't have phantom power. And it doesn't need it, because all it's for is to, let me clarify. This is a box that lets you bring your mixer into the computer and monitor back. That's what we're using this thing for mostly.
So it would not work for your Rode kit.
It is not a Rode kit box. If you're looking for a Rode kit unit, X2U, MicPort Pro, those are your top two devices to try out. In fact, they're so darn cheap. Buy two of them. Buy one of each. Just have them both in your bag. They take up almost no space. And if one flakes out, you've got the other one standing by for you.
I have a couple of MicPort Pros. Thanks for the question, Mr. Richard Fainer of Fort Lee, New Jersey, who actually is also known as Andy Barnett.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much. Well, we should we should keep moving on, because we got Bill on, and he's got a tight schedule with a hard out. So we want to make sure we get as much of him. So we will be right back in a couple of minutes with more, including Dan's Tip of the Week. We'll talk to you guys soon.
And now, back to East West Audio Body Shop, where every week it's Apollo 13.
Buffalo, we have a problem. It's, no, we're doing fine. Dan is off this week celebrating the holidays with family and friends and lots of food, I'm sure. And so they asked me if I would come in, and here I am.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Tell us about the horn. What the heck is that horn about?
You know, you sit in the booth for hours on end, and sometimes when you do auditions, you might do numerous takes, you know, just sort of get familiar with the copy and try it a few different ways. And when I record a bunch of takes, sometimes I want to mark one that I really like. So I just go, and then when I go back to the timeline and look at it for editing, I'll see and that'll be the take that I put. So it's a bike horn, and I have it here in the studio.
I love it, man.
Yep, secrets of the masters of voiceover.
Simplicity.
It was actually given to me by Harpo Marx. Yes.
Everything needs a story attached to add some intrigue.
Yes, and we have got some intrigue. You know, we were in Chicago, a bunch of us voiceover types, for Joan Baker's voiceover event that she and her hubby put on with wonderful people, great coaches. Got a nice hat from our friends at Sennheiser and Neumann. And got to see Dave Fenoy, who's going to be a guest in the not-too-distant future on this very, very program.
Excellent.
Great guy. Yeah, he was just in Texas at his mom's a week ago, and he there was no internet,
Really?
And yeah, I mean, he was in the middle of East Texas.
I mean,
and so I think he was like driving down to the public library just to get on Facebook.
It's like I let that roll off the back. I just let that roll off the back of my head. Like, no internet. Wait a minute. In this day and age in the U.S., no internet. Period.
I know. we were on a cruise ship that had internet. I was doing commercials from the stateroom.
I know. We even tested a Source Connect and then got a connection on Source Connect on the cruise ship, which blew my mind.
Yeah, we were doing a Source Connect across the stateroom. One laptop to another, just to test it out. This is what, other people go to shows, the casino, the buffet. We're in a stateroom in the middle of the ocean doing Source Connect testing.
It's fantastic, man.
Something wrong with that. So we were in Chicago, and let's see, Pat Fraley was there, and Nancy Wolfson, and Deb Dotzer. Great folks. It was just great experience to see some of my friends, and Bill Ratner was one of those people.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him about it here in a few minutes when he's on.
We'll be talking to Bill in just a couple of minutes. And I'm just trying to think if there were any, when I was in LA, I got a little horror story, and then we can move on with the show. It's not really a horror story, but it's a good, a cautionary tale. Be prepared. Bring your kit with you when you go on vacation. Now, I had my netbook and my MicPort Pro and my 416. And I got a call from a client that I'd been doing a lot of work for recently for the paycheck company, ADP. And they're a vendor that makes videos for them to train people on how to use the product. And these guys in LA called and said, is there any chance you could be in your booth on Thursday? And I was like, no, I'm in LA. Do you guys have a quiet space? And they said, yeah, come on down. And so they had this really beautiful place in the Arts District, this great converted factory building, and it's they have 3 or 4 floors. And the president of this company is a sort of a guru of branding, and occasionally he goes on like CNBC as a guest. So he has his office like sort of damped with Oralex on the walls and stuff, and they were like, that should be great. I said, all right, I'll bring my kit. We'll just do the script. You can direct me right there in the office. Well, evidently the work that the guy does on TV is done after hours because of East Coast time. So there is a big wooden floor, and evidently there was a bowling league upstairs, so we couldn't do it. And then they said, all right, well, where are we going to go? I said, well, we need a quiet space. And they said, hey, we have a storage facility downstairs, public storage. We go down. That won't work. It's like chicken wire roof, and that didn't work. Then they said, oh, well, how about we go to a rehearsal space for bands? And we got in the car and we went over to I think Atwater Village and set up in there. And as soon as we set up, there was a great room. It was all acoustically treated. But evidently somebody with a bass started playing in the next rehearsal hall. So that was out. So this was like 3 tries. Finally, I said, you need to call a studio. Just say, hey, what's the good guy rate? We'll walk in. All we need is a power plug. I'll have my mic and everything. They just need to have lights and quiet.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It. Don't even need a tech. And finally, we did get one. But I'll tell you what, though, if you go the distance for people like that, literally, we're driving around and coiling up things and unpacking things and packing things up and trying all these things. And then finally we got the thing. The client was happy and everything was done. Just be prepared to be the person that saves the day. And, those are the people that will keep calling you.
It never hurts to be a hero.
Well, yeah.
From time to time.
I was kind of having a good time with it too.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
The grand tour of useless spaces to record in.
I like being the hero from time to time. That's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do. Tech supporting for people and getting them out of a bind. It's a lot of fun.
Well, what you do requires sometimes a lot of patience.
Well, it's a mixture of like high intensity frustration and total patience. And
it is kind of a Zen thing.
Yeah, changes all the time. It changes all the time. Well, I want to get Dan's tip of the week in here.
Terrific.
He did one on Rumble. In other words, low frequency junk that gets in the recording. And what are the best ways to deal with it?
I thought he was talking about knife fights between gangs. That's a little more LA.
Yeah. No, we're going to jump into this right away. And after this, we'll have a very brief discussion. And we'll have Ratner, Mr. Bill Ratner, on in about 5 minutes. So here is Dan's tip of the week.
I got an email recently from a client who says she's got lots of problems around her apartment in New York City because of construction or demolition. Well, how do you deal with rumble that comes from stuff like that? Now, rumble can come from a lot of places. It can come from construction around your house. It can come from traffic. We all know what that can be like. Or it can come from a train yard nearby. And, of course, doing your laundry during recording is not a really good idea. Well, first off, you may not even know it's there. You're used to that sound. So you have to look for it in your waveform, or in some cases a spectrograph is an easier place. Let's take a look and see how. When you're recording, you really shouldn't be looking at your waveform or anything else except your copy. When you look at your waveform afterwards, it should be nice and flat between passages. Otherwise, you'll see this, which is actually an indication of rumble, an uneven line. Now, here's why I like using a spectrogram, because it shows rumble or a noise floor very, very clearly. You can see it at the very bottom as a brighter orange or a red type of thing, and that's really not good. One thing we definitely know is that rumble is usually low frequencies, under 120 hertz. So what we can do is use several different schemes in software to try and remove them after the fact, using EQ or something specialized. For example, in Adobe Audition, you've got some specialized filters, like in EQ, you've got an FFT filter, and look for a specialized preset called Kill the Mic Rumble. What it does is it takes out every frequency underneath 100 hertz, and then eases them out, and when you hit apply, you can see what happens here. It removes all the frequencies underneath 100 hertz. So it gets rid of the rumble without affecting your voice. Or use a simple 10-band equalizer like this and take out everything underneath 100, 125 hertz, or just reduce it a little bit, and you'll see that also reduces the rumble significantly. Well, as you know, I'm not a big fan of front-end processing, but if you're a little bit more advanced in your skills, you can try these tools. If you're lucky enough to have a good condenser mic, it will have what's called a low-cut filter, which will cut everything below 80 hertz. And the same is true with a good channel strip preamp, which also has an underneath 80 hertz filter on it. So try engaging that if you have it. So as you can see, rumble's not that big a deal. Try to get rid of the initial source. And if that doesn't work, you have some special filters and tools you can use on the front end and the back end, and make your audio sound sweet. And that's my tip of the week.
Eldorado Recording Services.
Randy Thomas chiming in.
This is Alex Verdi.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner in Los Angeles.
Hi, this is Scott Rummel here in Yorba Linda, California.
Hi, my name is Rick Wasserman.
Hi, this is Tom Kane.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marshall.
Hi, my name is Zurich.
Hi, I'm Mary McKittrick.
Hi, I'm Peter McHugh.
I was turned on to George by none other than Don LaFontaine, who always swore by his health.
George is absolutely awesome.
ISDN, Source Connect, Phone Patch, FTP, you name it, George has set it up.
It's really the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel free, safe, fearless, like anything is possible in here.
Unless you like to look for opportunities to waste time, call George.
And he did all of that, long distance over the phone and the internet.
I'm very happy with George, and I cherish
I've got my travel kit, I got my Source Connect, I've got it all going on, thanks to you.
Thanks, George. You make it easy.
Welcome back to EWABS. We were expecting you, but we still didn't bake a cake. Here's Dan.
Well then, this is John Taylor in for the lovely and talented Dan Leonard, and we've got somebody special on East West Audio Body Shop. It's the mellifluous and wonderfully talented Bill Ratner. Hey, Bill.
Yes, John, what's up? Last I saw you, you were on Wabash Avenue in near North Chicago.
Yeah, we were chit-chatting on the side of the road. We were at That's VO with Joan Baker, and that was a fun event.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So this is very cool. I mean, it took me, I sweated through a lot of T-shirts to get to this, guys. Plugging and unplugging my headphones because George doesn't realize that headphones are like really a very complex thing to me.
Well, Dan, Bill, you've gotten used to working without headphones mostly lately, have you not?
I have. I mean, the truth is, I watched the great Bo Weaver in a session take a heavy-duty 1K tone from a mixer, and he grabbed the headphones and threw them into the corner. I mean, it was just a reflexive action. I would have done exactly the same.
Oh yeah, just like a feedback kind of thing.
Right, and then I met a wonderful drummer, rock and roll and jazz drummer named Peter Erskine, originally from Weather Report, and he still tours and teaches all over the world. He has terrible tinnitus, along with a lot of rock and roll musicians and some voiceover people, and I was beginning to hear the little 1K tones in my head at night. Eee! So about 5 years ago, I said, you know what? Slapback or no slapback, I'm quitting headphones, and today, for you, I'm wearing headphones.
But you still do the ear cup.
Mm-hmm. Well, it allows me, no headphones allows me to do the ear cup, but truthfully, the tinnitus has gone away. Literally. Wow. I don't know if anybody else listening experiences tinnitus. I mean, one of the symptoms are very strange because you hear what sounds very much like an electronic tone in your head. Eee! So I stopped using headphones altogether. And the only time I get in trouble is if I have a British client, an English client, calling from Greenwich Mean Time in London. We're getting a bit of an echo, mate. Yes, well, if you turn your talk back down while you're talking to me, you won't hear it. So that solves that. But yeah, I'm on a lovely pair of Sony MDR V250s, vintage now, guys.
They got a squiggly cord, don't they?
Actually, no, those are the straight cord ones, aren't they?
They do, and they have a little tiny a volume control on the cord and on-off a stereo on-off switch. It's very nice, very nice.
All right, everybody who's not familiar with Bill's work, you are one of the world's best storytellers. Tell people about what you do with that, because I think it's of value to anybody who wants to be a voice artist.
Well, the coolest thing that happened to me was the world of voiceovers and storytelling came together. Because, 25 years ago, every piece of copy that we got from our agent to audition for said, we want actors. We don't want announcers. And of course, they'd hire the announcer 9 out of 10 times, but that was the direction. Then about 10 years ago was, we don't want announcers, we want real people. And then when they realized that real people generally aren't trained well enough to do voiceovers, they changed it to about 5 years ago, we want storytellers. And that was kind of, that was sort of at the same time I started going to nightclubs for these story slams put on by The Moth, themoth.org, and they have an NPR radio show and a podcast. Personal storytelling happens at 3 places in LA and 5 places in New York, and it happens in Chicago and Ann Arbor and elsewhere. And I was doing I do the Hyundai campaign. I'm the tag guy, and one of the account executives said, "Hey, I was just at the Talking Stick in Venice the other night, hearing you tell a story." And I went, "Yes." Now he thinks I'm a storyteller. I'm not an announcer. I am a storyteller. So yeah, no, I do. I go on the road occasionally to do these conferences, and they pay me to teach a workshop. I teach a workshop called Voiceovers for Storytellers, because there's a whole sort of raft of professional storytellers out there who do schools and conferences, who are perfectly poised to have their studios. They put out CDs, but they don't know about this wonderful, strange world of voiceovers, and so I tell them.
Which came first, Bill? Was it professional voice acting, or have you been telling stories for years and just discovered The Moth recently?
Well, I did theater as a kid, as a lot of us did, I mean, in my 20s, and I was working with a tough guy named Ronnie Davis, who founded with the actor Peter Coyote, the San Francisco Mime Troupe. And that very troupe that he founded kicked him out after 15 years. And,
wow, tough mimes.
Yeah, well, they had in the Constitution, exactly, that they could make collective decisions about leadership. And they said, you're out of here. And he goes, all right. So he buys this building, and I went to work for him, and we were doing some Bertolt Brecht thing, and it was just a mess. And all these people were on stage tripping at each other. And I said, this is stupid. Why don't you just have one person sit in a stool and tell the story for this scene instead of people tripping over each other? He goes, oh, yeah, wise guy, you show up at 3 o'clock and you do it. And so I did. And that was a big, huge breakthrough for me in front of a big theater audience in Berkeley, California. I was able to tell a story about some crazy battle in the Roman times. And then right at the same time in my late 20s, I did my first voiceover, and I joined AFTRA, and I was in radio earning $165 a week, far less than John Taylor ever made. And
they pay $175 now.
Yeah, and it's all been sunshine and long stem roses ever since.
Now, I want to get back to your storytelling, because these stories, in a lot of instances, are from personal experience. But I had no idea you were that old, that you were around during the Roman era.
I was, and yes, Cicero and I were very close friends. In fact, I helped him edit much of his work. But yeah, in fact, the most fun I had this year, other than going to the bank with my Hyundai checks, was in the Hollywood Fringe Festival.
Oh yeah,
really?
That was awesome.
I decided, you know what? I've been doing this, talking to myself for so long. So I wrote an hour-long piece called "Voices in My Head: A Life," about having had a dad in advertising and having been an advertising brat. I worked in the mailroom of Campbell Methuen Ad Agency when I was 14 years old, and it was a lot of fun, sort of connecting my experiences with early television and my listening to voices. I remember the booth announcer on Ronald Reagan's WHO TV in Des Moines, Iowa. This commercial message will be 60 seconds long.
They always sounded a little tired, didn't they? Those old.
Well, they drank a lot back in those days.
But you've actually parlayed those sort of old school announcers into a great campaign with Jackie Chan.
Well, yes, thank you. The V8, and V8 has come back. They did a wonderful series with Jackie Chan, the Taekwondo movie star, and I was the guy who said, well, blah, 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 veggies and fruit, could have had a V8. And
cranberry juice? I love that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You put so much emotion into those little, 3 words. It's like you're judgmental, you're judging this woman for wanting a smoothie, and and you're also sort of like paving the way for an amazing Jackie Chan, ninja move. It's really cool. Right. And now they have a new one, and it's the same guy, but it's like dialed back.
Well, it's a different campaign. Jackie Chan has gone the way of all great Taekwondo stars, and this is a new sort of crazy, funny, quirky, ironic campaign, but they still have me saying, could have had a V8. And John, being a great student, as you are, of all eras of American broadcast, you're right. I mean, I am old enough so that I can hearken back to those guys who were the booth announcers and the early Saturday Night Live and all of that. And so
he's still working.
Yes, he is. He's in his 80s.
Don Pardo, he's 96 or something.
Don Pardo, yeah, absolutely. Saturday Night Live. And so, which is wonderful, because what it tells us is you don't have to be 25 years old in order to get a job in voiceover. And there is an appreciation for the old school. And,
when I was growing up, we had in our Boston television affiliate, WCVB Channel 5, the news was opened by Ernie Anderson. So it was like, now, the news of New England. Chet Curtis, Natalie Jacobson. This is News Center 5 tonight.
Yeah, Ernie was a character, and Ernie, in his own way, was much more interesting than the typical booth announcer, although that's what he was, until he became a TV star in the 60s with the great Goulardi. And he had a 50 share on
we just lost a great character in the business. And it's terrible because I only met him one time. I'm so glad that I did.
Who?
This is the guy who was he was on the A Team. Gosh, and it's going to kill me. His name began with
Peter Graves.
No. His name began with an L.
Neither of us have the name on the top of our heads right now. He was all over. There was a lot of people talking about him on Facebook, saying,
he worked with Elvis, and he did a lot of the promos.
Lance Legault.
Yes.
Lance Legault.
Yeah,
the great Lance Legault.
I met him outside of Don's memorial service with you.
Yes,
we were standing there with Lance Legault. He just passed away.
I worked with the guy. He was terrific. I had no idea who he was. He was at CBS in PP23 or whatever the post room is called, and he was with his sort of Tennessee accent. He was doing some kind of thing at voiceover, and I said, "Hey, Lance, how you doing? I've always heard you, man. Nice to meet you." And he launched into his biography. Well, I choreographed the jail scene for Elvis and I hung around with Elle and her. He was a character, and at the time he had
really
just gotten remarried at age 63. He had like a 3-year-old child. And I thought, well, gee.
Yeah, young kids. Yeah. But so he passed away. So that's sad because he was.
He's another example of a guy who obviously had some age on him, but was kind of a prototypic American voice. South of the Mason-Dixon line, and a lot of style and pizzazz. And he was actually a choreographer and a singer and a dancer. He danced in Jailhouse Rock, and which is nothing that I would ever admit, but that's another story.
So the moral of the story is, if you want to be a good storyteller, you better have a good story. And so it's not just about having a pretty voice. It's about having a pretty interesting existence, or at least being curious about life.
I had an interesting experience literally 20 years ago when about 8 of us were sent back east to as the LA contingent of the AFTRA promo caucus to negotiate with Paramount and NBC and CBS and the network code, which regulates what we get paid to announce under AFTRA. And it was Don, and it was Ernie Anderson, and it was Chuck Riley. And Don at the time was just coming up and just beginning to do NBC and a lot of trailers and stuff, and was a relatively young guy. Today he would be 73, so he was only 43 years old. And another young guy and I were invited up to their room to have drinks after the Saturday negotiations. And I thought, this has got to be great. We're going to hear all these stories and these real characters. And what they talked about was television shows. And remember the Tim Conway show, and that donkey came on, and why they had to clean up after him. Oh, what a mess that was. And I thought, aren't they going to talk about like camping or hitchhiking or, meeting girls on the Champs-Élysées in Paris or something, really? No, because and when you meet guys who have spent all their lives in a booth, they're sort of developmentally, they stopped growing at about 16 when their voices changed. And I remember this, the difference between like actors and radio guys, old radio guys who enter the booth at 16 and they don't come out until they get fired at 69. Like the great Dick Whittington, sweet Dick Whittington in L.A., who said, when you wake up at 4:15 in the morning and swing your legs over the bed and your feet hit the floor and you're crying uncontrollably for reasons you don't understand, it's time to get out of radio. And these are guys who were trapped in the booth for decades.
Oh, boy.
And so my friend Steve Kamer, Steve Kamer, great announcer in New York for the Yankees and everybody else, he and I sort of snuck out of the room and said, let's go get something to eat. All they're talking about is TV. I hate TV. I love TV because it pays me. I just don't like to watch much of it. I like True Blood.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people that work in the industry don't watch what they work on. I mean, it's like...
Well, yeah, I mean, there's really a big difference. I think most voiceover people, men or women, it doesn't matter. I think every one of us has kind of a child within who loves the sound, the oral landscape of broadcast. Tonight, brought to you by Then. And we've been making fun of it and imitating it since we were 12 years old. And now that we have the privilege and the pleasure of doing it for money, it's great fun. And that's being behind the scenes and behind a microphone, and you sometimes you get to see the final product, and it's great. But it's the rest of America that has to sit down and watch it, and so that's something that I don't necessarily do. And I was confronted once at ABC in the booth. Are you the guy that doesn't let your kid watch TV? And I said, well, I mean, we control it certainly. I had little kids, we control it. We watch we watch videos and go to the movies, but we don't watch too much TV. Yeah, but we pay you to promote television programming. And I said, yeah, well, I'm a union member with a job, and I'm also a parent. Two totally different things.
That's
and
very
now
well said.
My kids are grown up.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, that problem is never going to be more apparent if I have to send my kid to Waldorf school, which actually I think would be great for Ella. But they have a zero media policy at that school. The kids cannot watch media until they're about 10 or 11 years old, and that seems impossible.
It probably is impossible. I mean, there are some. I know Waldorf people, and it's very interesting. I mean, I would advocate it. I sort of wish we did Waldorf. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
To be, no computer, no internet, no nothing. And then 10 years old, the brain is much more developed than a 7-year-old, and kind of go, oh, this is cool, and I can do this, and I can, figure out how to, create the new Google.
It's like nothing you've ever... It's like a fairyland. I mean, it really is totally different, but when you go there, it's amazing. Somebody said in the chat room, Funny Girl's Voice, said, ask Bill about possibly working with Seth MacFarlane in the 4th episode or season of Family Guy. Is that going to happen?
This is Family Guy got taken off the air. I think it was on CBS after 3 seasons, and it was dropped.
Yeah.
And then Fox very smartly picked it up and said, the fall, you're coming on in the fall of, I don't know what it was, 5 years ago or so. And Seth MacFarlane was a G.I. Joe freak. He's a perfect generation. He's, probably early 40s. And in the early 80s, he watched a lot of Transformers and G.I. Joe on TV when he was a kid. And he called my agent and said, do you know if the guy who did the voice of Flint on the original G.I. Joe is still alive? And she goes, yeah, he's alive, and we represent him. It's Bill Ratner. And so he said, well, I want to book him. I want Flint on the show. He's going to be in character. Oh, this is so exciting. And they called me, and I said, geez, I live in a different part of L.A. I can't get to Fox. I could only do it for 45 minutes. And they said, well, their post room is a different schedule. So I thought, well, I'd love to do it, but I can't. So he called me on the phone and said, listen, just record it there. I want to be on the phone with you. I want to chat. And as huge of a star that Seth MacFarlane is, he was all nervous and like, oh, this is so great. And I had no idea. That was really the first time that I began to get it, that people who were children, when they watched G.I. Joe and Transformers, Peter Cullen of Optimus Prime is the same thing, but he ended up, in all the Transformer movies, in great part because original viewers of the Transformers said, if you change that voice of Optimus Prime, we ain't going to your stupid movie. This has nothing to do with me and Seth MacFarlane, but yeah, it was fun. And then Seth Green, who's also on Family Guy, the nice guy, the red-haired actor who has his own show on Adult Swim and the Cartoon Channel, Robot Chicken, said, well, I want Flint on my show. So he wrote a couple episodes for Flint. So Flint came back from the mausoleum, and the other night at IO West, Improv Olympics West, they did a Comic Book Live as a show they do at 11:30 on Saturday nights on Hollywood Boulevard, and they actually had Flint on the show. It was like walking the plank under the influence of psychedelic mushrooms, doing improv as Commander Flint.
Which you have done before.
That's a very long answer to your question, Funny Voice. Was that her name?
Funny Girl's Voice. Yeah, that's what it was.
Funny Girl's Voice. Thank you for asking. That's really one of my favorite stories.
But the thing is when you're the voice of something that is made for children, you get to be immortal because you live in that child's imagination forever. That's as close as you get to immortality.
If Buffalo Bob showed up at the mall from the Howdy Doody show, I would need a pair of diapers. I mean, that would be it. I'd be like, wow, or Clarabelle the clown. So yeah. I mean, or Walt Disney.
Well, all of those people are dead. So if they showed up at the mall, I would pretty much need a diaper too.
They show up next to me every day, John.
Brains! Disney want brains!
Oh, Susan Bernard, by the way, was Funny Girl's voice, and she said, "Happy New Year" to you.
Hi, Susan.
Is such a wonderful person.
She is.
We love her.
Yeah. Did you celebrate that over the last couple of days, Bill?
I'm a bad boy, and I was raised in the Unitarian Church, but I'm singing in a chorus on the next Wednesday night or something. So I could face my grandmother on my father's side and say, "Yes, Grandma, sei gesund."
All right. Well, since we do talk about studios a lot, just what's the latest in your home studio? What has changed the way you work recently and made things better? And what things do you wish you could still be doing better after years of trying to tweak it and make it the best it can be?
Well, because I have a man named George Whittam who helps me out, this is like totally A1 tricked out. It's amazing to me. I put a new roof on my house about 10 years ago, and I had to move my studio from my basement into my garage for a year. And I thought, oh, this is going to be and I hired a young kid to help me, and we carried it up the stairs, put it on my couch, put my entire studio on my couch, and it was just like a little tiny pathetic pile of like little metal things and wires. And I thought, that's it? And at that time, I had an Otari 2-track, quarter-inch tape, and I sort of loved, and I would literally cut tape with a razor blade.
Yeah.
The MX 5050.
Oh yeah, and now I love Pro Tools. Jeff over at Voice Bank sent me a Pro Tools years ago. I think they're probably all the same, but Pro Tools I'm just used to, and I really like it, and it's so quick and so fast. But one thing that clients are doing that I wish they wouldn't is, we're going all digital, Bill. We can no longer record you on our ISDN. We need you to send us MP3s, and I love to be able to say, I'm not an editor.
Yeah.
The heck with you. But I like the paycheck. So
yeah.
I mean, the MP3 technology has made it easier for the client, and not necessarily for the voiceover talent who suddenly has to put an editor's hat on and do that.
Yeah.
So, but it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible to be able to sit here, go into your booth, lay a track down, do a quick edit, slam it into an MP3, send it off. I mean, I have an FTP page on my site as well for large uncompressed files. And I mean, the bandwidth that you can buy for, I used to pay $600 a month for a T1 line.
Oh yeah.
I now pay $200 to Time Warner, and for cable, which I only use. I don't use cable TV. I direct TV for that.
Mm-hmm.
For a cable, for a third of the money, it's got 3 times the bandwidth, and the uploads for a half-hour narration for some Discovery ID show is like zip boom. So the fact that bandwidth keeps getting greater and greater on the internet is all to our advantage.
So true. It's so true. We have your entire network backed up to the internet now. It took only about 2 weeks to back up every computer in your house over the internet. That should tell you something about how fast it is now. Well, we got to let you go. I know you got to run out tonight, and we want to be respectful of your time. But it's been great having you on.
So educate me. Next week, where do I hear your show?
Well, you hear our show always on EWABS.com. See and hear the show. We do a podcast version of audio only, which I actually listen to the show more than I see it because I listen to it while I'm driving around. But we podcast it on iTunes. And but EWABS.com and YouTube is where the show ends up, and I upload it to YouTube right after the show every night. And so if you subscribe to our EWABS YouTube channel, it shows up there. So
what's it called? YouTube.com/EWABS?
It should just be /EWABS, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it will show
iTunes,
up
there. What do I look at? How do I hear this show, this one we just did on iTunes?
Well, once I get it up there, sometimes there's a week delay because I have so much post to do to get it up on there. But it would be, if you search under EWABS, you would find it on iTunes. In the iTunes store.
So this is just my manipulative way of getting you to do a promo for your own show, George.
Oh, we're lousy at plugging ourselves. It's we're terrible at it. No,
so this is better than the Bob and Ken show on KABC. Really, I like.
Thanks, man. We have a lot of fun.
All right, guys.
Thanks again for diving into your studio tonight, patching a few cables, and making it happen.
Yeah, one day I'll learn how to get it in my booth, and get off this $20 microphone that an old girlfriend gave me in 1982, and she had been using it to nail shingles on her roof, but it also doubled as an interview microphone, and that's my board mic, which I'm speaking to now.
Rock solid, reliable, EV635A. I know that thing well.
George Whittam, ladies and gentlemen, man of all knowledge, and John Taylor, who is the Ernie Anderson of the aughts.
You got it, man. Great to talk to you. We'll see you soon.
Okay, guys.
Have a great night, Bill.
Thanks, George.
All right, now we can talk about Bill behind his back.
Let's gossip.
That's awesome.
That was awful kind of him to get down in the studio. I know doing this show every Sunday, it's not, Bill's got a family. You got a lot of weekend activities. It's not always easy to escape away to the studio on a Sunday evening.
And he's got to go and report to the probation officer by 7 o'clock. So he had to go really fast,
exactly.
In violation of parole. But he's a good man, and you'll hear him all over the place in TV commercials. I love the investigation discovery shows that he does. They're usually about somebody dying or killing somebody or whatever, but he just makes it sound so good that you just want to go out and murder someone. No, you don't.
Well,
hey, we have to talk about Harlan Hogan, don't we?
Mm-hmm. We most certainly do, sir.
Let's talk about Harlan Hogan, shall we?
Let's talk about Harlan Hogan. Okay, never mind. Forget. Can we roll that back? Oh, this is live. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Harlan Hogan's voiceoveressentials.com. Harlan is our first a sponsor of East West Audio Body Shop. He's been here since the beginning. He is the man. If you tuned in last week, you got to hear his little infomercial about his latest incarnation of the Portabooth Pro. I think it's the Take 3. I think it's the third version of the Portabooth Pro. And he makes a product that everybody likes, and then he revises it and he hones it and refines it. He doesn't rest on his laurels. And
sort of like Apple.
Yeah, sort of like Apple.
Only on a slightly smaller scale.
Right. Whether they need to or not.
Excellent nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly. So now his new Portabooth Pro is sporting some RLX acoustical foam. And the one thing I didn't know until I had him on the show last week to tell us about it is that the new RLX foam is soy-based, or at least a portion of the chemical makeup of the foam is soy. And
I'm just gonna lick mine right here.
Oh, I don't know if you have the soy version.
No,
it's just, when you
I don't.
Have you ever eaten a packing peanut to figure out if it's the kind that's biodegradable?
This is not the soy-based. But I have a newer piece. Let me grab it.
Well, it's a blend of soy and some other stuff, but it is very, very low VOC, which means it off-gases almost no toxic or stanky odors.
Yeah, you haven't been in my booth, buddy.
Oh, baby.
Wouldn't go in there if I were you.
It's the worst when I'm doing work in my studio and I have to shut all the windows because of the noise. Oh, man. Anyway.
All righty. TMI. We went down the rabbit hole. I got an email while we're on the subject of Harlan Hogan and Oralex. I got an email from the president of Oralex.
No kidding.
Because I had mentioned Oralex on an EWABS show, saying that they should come out with a version that it looks like faux fur and call it Furalex.
Right. Those guys pay attention, man.
They do.
I love vendors and industry, manufacturers that are tuned in. RLX has spent years and years perfecting acoustics for recording studios, and I think they're just now realizing how different the home voiceover studio is, and how challenging it is to get a small booth or a space in your home to sound good enough to be, for finished quality for broadcast or film or TV. It's not it's not as simple as it is as tacking a couple pieces of foam on the wall. There's a lot more to it. But Portabooth Pro from Harlan, the latest version. Check it out at voiceoveressentials.com and see all the other wares that he has available over there, because he's got quite a range of product, all of it specifically for the voiceover world. So thank you again, Harlan Hogan and voiceoveressentials.com, for supporting us. We really appreciate it. And if you do buy something from Harlan, tell him that we sent you, will you?
Yeah, and everybody's been throwing in their fart jokes pretty much
in the chat room.
On the chat room.
See, folks, this is why it's important to tune into the show live, so you can be in our Ustream chat room. You're missing you're missing some golden nuggets here.
There are some, yeah.
Nuggets of something.
Somebody was saying that they should make they should have a bass trap soup. Tom Wall, very funny.
That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah, but just a ham bone and a bass trap, and so nice stuff there.
Thanks again, man.
Bob Hurley's in there suggesting that you have some cheddar cheese before you go in the booth. Very
I just
nice.
turned on links in the chat room, guys, so you can post links. I always forget to do that. You have to actually manually turn that on. So, let's go to another quick break here and thank Pop Quizzical with their little spot. And we'll be right back to wrap up the show, answer maybe a couple of questions in the mailbag, and just sort of drag it out for about 45 to an hour or longer until everybody falls
asleep. Hey, I got to get up and do a radio show.
No, I'm just kidding.
10 o'clock Eastern, buddy. We'll be back.
We'll be right
here
back.
On East West Audio Body Shop.
Hey, my name is Bob Ball. I'm a voice actor and host of Pop Quizzical. Sure. I hear you thinking, Bob, what is this Pop Quizzical you speak of? Well, I'll tell you. It's a fun and funny, single-themed 10 to 15-minute audio quiz. It comes out every other week right here on the internets. You know, that thing that just about everything cool flows from. Pictures of cats, videos of dogs, and yes, Pop Quizzical. It's available on iTunes and wherever fine podcasts are sold. And it's easily found, too. Go to bit.ly/popquizzical. There's also a companion website at popquizzical.com with daily quiz questions, and every Friday over on the Pop Quizzical Facebook page, it's a Freebie Friday. Free stuff throughout the day. From The Muppet Show to James Bond to St. Patrick's Day, the Pop Quizzical podcast has a little bit of everything for you. Challenge your mind and your funny bone with Pop Quizzical.
Class dismissed.
Welcome back to EWABS. We were expecting you, but we still didn't bake a cake. Here's Dan and George.
And it's John Taylor on the East, and I'm filling in for Dan this week, who's celebrating holidays with his family.
And
we got George Whittam, of course, in the West, and you've been, you say, scraping the interwebs for tidbits of technical information that might be of use to people out there.
Technical information, yeah. I mean, tonight I've got a couple questions that have kind of backed up in the queue, so maybe I'll skip the tech tidbits of the week and go right into some questions, because there's a few of them in there. This was one back in August 21st from Amy Jolson. And she writes, and let's see if we can answer this question, because it might be a little bit too much tech for one question. I just discovered and love your show. Sad I missed webinar tonight. I missed the webinar. I'm in New York City in a tiny basement apartment. Home studio using a Roto NT1A, a Tascam 122, MacBook, and Logic 8. I just lost a lot of cash because of some room noise and a new twist of building and demolition and construction of a new building right next door. Oh, man. I know how that feels, because I've had construction right outside my house for 6 months. It just began. It's going until 2014. Long story short, before I found you, I Googled a guy for an emergency on-site consultation. He said switching to a large diaphragm dynamic mic, like an M88 or a Shure SM7B, won't pick up the whole room. I forget why I thought cardioid condenser was the only way to go for VO. I don't think this person was a VO specialist, but is it worth a try? Does the same thing apply in voiceover? And I got to say, my background is MFA acting, so this tech stuff, it doesn't stick so well in my brain. So
move. You got to move to a different apartment.
Oh, man. I don't know what to say. I don't know how much you have invested in this place, whether you could sublet it to somebody else if you really, really love it, or just move. I mean, I think, that John's short answer might be the best one. It doesn't seem like a fair answer.
No.
But if you add up the costs of the other alternatives, 1, losing work, 2, spending money at another studio because you can't work at your own, or 3, the one-time cost of moving and relocating to a new location. And I know it's New York. It's probably one of the hardest cities in the world to, move and get a place. But it might come down to that. Because if you're renting an apartment, there is nothing you can do. And Dan's little thing about Rumble may have some relevance to you. So I hope you watch that. But, I think there's not much you're going to be able to do in a rental apartment to quell the noise of that much construction for that long. Especially if you work directed. If you're working on somebody else's schedule, on a phone patch, Source Connect, ISDN, something like that, that's when you're really going to have trouble. If you can work off hours, start really early or really late at night and work around the noise, that's the cheapest possible solution. But it really does depend on your situation. Any other
You really
advice?
need to find some spaces that you can go to record in and have them ready to go.
I agree. I mean, it's a really rough part. It's one of the best things about living in New York. It has a lot of advantages, and this is one of the major disadvantages. So
I had in L.A., there was a young lady lived across the alley who I believe may have been employed by the oldest profession in the world.
Yeah. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wish her luck. I think that moving may be the best thing. I'm going to read one more. This is just a piece of fan mail. It's not a question, but I wanted to read it because John's hosting tonight, and I just thought you would get a little smile from this. And, well, here it goes. It's from Mark Mickelson, and it's regarding episode 60 when we had the doctor on. Dan's buddy. He said,
Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah, he said, "Hi guys, longtime listener here. I wanted to give you some feedback on episode 60. Thank you. We like feedback. We get it so rarely, and we really appreciate it, by the way.
We like positive feedback."
Yeah. Either way, actually. I was interested in what the doctor had to say and thought he was charming and with it. Please say thank you from this listener, as I thought your show otherwise was disrespectful to him and the content what he was sharing. We were being disrespectful to him. I find his content imperative for voice professionals to know. If one already knows it, tune out and re-enter another area of your interest. Ooh. It's not all about gagging and making a joke at the expense of the scene. Other than that, keep up the great work. I appreciate you guys. Regards, Mark M.
Well, Mark, we try and make it entertaining.
Yes, we do.
And the doctor was absolutely on point with everything he said.
No, he was absolutely factual. But you have to tune into the show every week to start to get a feel for the show and realize that we try, as hard as we try not to make it totally dry. If we talked only about tech and the technicalities of voiceover and every aspect of it, it would be challenging. So, but I do appreciate that. We were just having a little fun, and Dan knows the doctor very well. He's not somebody that we had no connection with. So, I think it was good, clean fun, and we still did get to glean a lot of information from him. So, but thanks again for listening and paying attention. We really appreciate your feedback. It's really important. It makes our show better. I
wasn't real crazy about that feedback.
I wasn't particularly crazy about it either, but I just thought it was timely that you were hosting.
Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Why don't you just forward the hate mail?
For the hate mail. It's, you know what? Hate mail is a good thing. It means people are actually watching. No, yes, it is. It means people actually care and they're actually watching the show. I hate it when people,
I'm in this for my own ego gratification.
I hate it when
no
people,
bones about it.
No, I hate it when people kiss your butt all day long.
Tom Wall is writing, "Dear John."
Oh, baby. I love it. I love it. You know, we've got some more coming in, but I want to save these for the next show because, you know, we've got a lot more coming up, and John has to get up really early.
I have to annoy Cape Cod on the radio.
Yeah, he has to get up in about 5 hours and get prepared for his show. What time do you go on in the morning?
6 a.m.
6 a.m. So you're in the chair by 5:30?
No.
5:55?
No, I actually have to get in my booth and do auditions and voiceover imaging for other radio stations before I even go to this one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I like to get that morning voice.
No kidding. Well, that's the early bird if I ever heard of it.
Yeah, so I get up at 3. Get in the booth by about 3:15, 3:20.
Well, we'll let you go soon, but I wanted to say that we're going to have Simon Vance on next week, on Sunday next week. He is a audiobook monster out there pumping out the audiobooks, and we're going to talk about audiobooks and ACX and Audible.com. We might even get a little controversial, which would be awesome. I love a little bit of controversial on the show.
I like a controversy.
Controversy. We may hear some honest to goodness, no holds barred thoughts regarding Audible and all that, and where the future is moving. So I think that's going to be really excellent. Anybody that cares anything about audiobooks, which is almost every voice actor at this point that I seem to talk to, is doing.
I don't like doing audiobooks. They're too long. But I've really started branching out, and now I'm doing audio pamphlets.
There needs to be a short form version of audiobooks.
Audio pamphlets.
I think actually there is an audiobook short form. They call it audio singles. I think at Amazon. They call them singles or something like that. Maybe they're not audiobooks. Maybe they're actually actual books or ebooks or whatever. They call them singles, something like that. They're like $1.99 or something.
All right, well, get ready because Simon Vance is going to be bringing the drama.
Yeah, and actually he's in the chat room.
Yep, he's already bringing the drama.
He said the pamphlets, that's where that's where the money is. You heard it here first, folks.
Audio pamphlets.
That's why you tune in every week. Well, anyway, happy Jewish New Year, y'all. Dan will be back next week, we promise, with Simon. And EWABS Shop is where you can get some fun stuff for your desk. Things like mugs.
I have a mug. I love my mug.
Yeah, the mugs and you can find EWABS Shop at shop.ewabs.com. And it's also on our website, which I'm constantly trying to make cooler and prettier and funner. And if you have any ideas on what you'd like to see over at ewabs.com, please drop us a note. I'm always honing it and fine-tuning it.
Funner?
Funner. Well, yeah, anyway.
I'm writing a hate mail to you. Must improve grammar.
Grammar. Thanks, man. Thanks to our sponsors, Harlan, John Florian at VoiceOver Extra for giving us a lot of love like he has from the beginning. Bob Ball, and if you're interested in being a sponsor yourself, you can do that. And you got to contact our producer, Catherine Currendon. And I got to thank Catherine also for producing our show, getting guests lined up, and handling a lot of the dirty work so that Dan and I don't have to do it. And she's doing it completely voluntarily. So thank you very much to Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're awesome.
You're awesome. Thanks for all the emails.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for keeping the glue in the show together for us. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. What do you say, John?
I'd say thank you for allowing me to be there virtually and say hi to your lovely wife, Amy, and give a hug to baby Ella, who's a big girl now.
She is, man. Thanks so much for just immediately responding and saying absolutely when I asked you. It was very kind of you. And would you like to do it again sometime without the hate mail?
Anytime Dan needs me.
You got it.
I think it would be fun for me and Dan to do a show behind your back.
Well, you know what? Maybe we'll arrange that one of these days. Of course, I'll actually be having to run the show. But other than that, we could do that. I think that'd be a blast. I think one night it'd be fun for me to sit here and watch and just hit buttons.
It would be good.
Yeah,
Dan's hilarious.
Dan is funny.
I was trying to grow a mustache, but I didn't have enough time.
No doubt. Well, I've got
I was going to wax my eyebrows.
Well, I'll have more tech tips next week. I'm going to show you guys pictures of Mike Bratton's StudioBricks.com studio that he got from Studio Bricks, and play some audio clips, and I'll have that all for you guys next week. So thanks so much for listening. This is George Whittam out here in the West.
And John Taylor, not in Buffalo, but definitely in the East.
And we are
East West Audio Body Shop.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.